the importance of working capital as a concept. Right now, it is even more important than it has typically been, right? Because we've got interest rates that are elevated and are set to stay that way for at least for the next few years, it seems, with all the volatility in global trade, persistent inflation in certain markets. So the cost of capital is likely to stay pretty high for at least the next few years, you would expect. So the cost of having that cash tied up on the balance sheet is extremely high compared to the last decade or so of very cheap cash. We always say working capital is the cheapest source of financing for any organization. We saw in our most recent study that we saw an increase in the number of days sales outstanding. So this is really talking about the accounts receivable side of the working capital equation. I'm sure everybody knows what that equation looks like, but ultimately it's how good are you turning revenue into cash, your invoice to cash cycle. It's getting harder to collect on time. You know, in the macro environment that we're in with elevated cost of capital, everybody's protecting their own cash. On the flip side, it's taking longer for companies. This is an EU specific stat for a reason. It's taking 1.5 days extra for companies to pay their suppliers to protect their own working capital. But that's going to come under increasing pressure as the EU in particular looks to tighten its regulatory approach to how companies need to pay on time, essentially, particularly vis-a-vis smaller businesses. And the level of days payables outstanding across the EU came in at 74 days in our most recent study. So that 1.5 day increase to that level of 74 days is massively higher than the expected maximum proposed terms the EU is looking to try and move towards, which is between 30 and 60 days. We produced an analysis as part of this study that suggests that 1.6 trillion of excess working capital is tied up on companies' balance sheets. So by optimizing commercial terms, processes, supporting technology, and getting your cash culture and KPIs and reporting right around this whole cycle, there's a hugely valuable prize on offer through doing that.